Okay, so I just brought in my former assembly into the house just to work, because outside it's kind of cold. So when I first brought it in the house, this thing was disconnected. You can see that there's a number of different connectors, little ball joints and things like that around the cable. And I'm just making these comments off the cuff. I don't know their official names or anything, but I've changed these, and I know I tried to salvage one of these in the past, and then there's the components that actually hold the regulating part of the window itself that goes up and down the rails. Now I believe these may have fallen out in my trunk, because I relocated the broken piece in my trunk for a couple days while I ordered the part. And I rigged up the window to stay in the upward position, because we were of course expecting that night somewhere along the lines between 10 and 30 centimeters. So I was a little freaked out. I might put a video of that too, just like my temporary rigging, where I used like the position of the bolts to hold a 2x4 of about the right length, and it held the window in the up position. So I'm kind of shooting things in random orders, and I may produce that just to show you in case somebody needed to put the window up in a quick pinch. The information is there to make it nice and easy, and how I did it. So with the new regulator that I ordered on Amazon, having the knowledge that I have now, I decided to order a part that didn't require coming with a new motor. This is the second item like this in my car. There was the factory one, and then I replaced this one, and originally I'd replaced everything in one shot, and then I realized I could save the motor. The first time the motor was still working as well, but I know the motor's fine. So this time I opted out for a part that didn't have the motor integrated. You just have to remove it. The part number for the regulator for the front driver's side, and what's noted is my car is a 2015 LT 1.4 liter. Now this one has the express up and express down. There's some of these models of these kits on eBay, Amazon, a number of places that they don't have that feature for the express up and down. The ECU is expecting it, so that could kind of screw things up if you're trying to troubleshoot. So I'm not sure if you can see that. This is what the dealer provided me, and I asked for a part number. It's the second one on the list here. It's 953-82561. They priced it at $100 Canadian, roughly, as you can see by my thumb. Amazon was about 87 Canadian. That's shipped with Prime, so it's a good deal, a couple bucks off. Had it been in stock right and then that day, I might have just bought it at the dealers just to be done with it, because the weather was fair and I had the window and the door all apart, but both had to get shipping involved, so I said screw it, I'll do Amazon next day kind of thing. Took a little bit more than a day, but no biggie. Anyhow, so these cables have orientation that go crisscross, and like I say, when it's in the car, the bolts are facing outwards because they tie into the body of the door, and it's usually somewhat in this orientation here. So this piece, by just kind of recognizing what's going on, and again, when you're in the car and you're trying to adjust this, you're going to end up doing some of this kind of business to align it, and you got to watch out for these white parts, that they don't fall off, because this will totally mess up your alignment. And this one goes below. The rubber piece here is a shield, so the heat off the motor won't radiate and burn the plastic jacket here, because I mean, it's a motor, it's on the load, it's hot, and then it would normally connect like this. As you can see, it's kind of lining up, and probably at the extremes of the edge of my screen here. Just double check that, yeah. And then it would fit under the pulley over here, which is kind of the biggest pain in the butt with this project, is setting up these pulleys and have it all notch in, and it would go all the way to the top here. So getting it retensioned and back in the right spot exactly as it's meant to be, it's not an easy adventure. So you'll see these wheels are notched. So if anybody was really in the butt, and how they all like, I'll try to put up the new piece here, which we have to eventually anyhow. And I have to try to preserve it. Now the other thing is, if I remember correctly, these mounting bolts do not come with the kits. You have to preserve the original ones. Don't strip them, be careful. So without spending too much time on trying to reassemble all this stuff, I'm going to focus this part now, again, back to the removal of the actual power motor assembly in itself. Okay, so this video here is the portion where we're going to describe removing the actual motor. When we're going to look at it from this side here, the actual mounting points are these three positions here, and I don't believe there's a fourth. They are a large Phillips screw. If I remember correctly, they're torqued pretty tight, so you might need a ratchet to help make things easier, or a cordless drill with a little bit of torque. So it's in order to kind of get that going. Personally, I think I'm going to set up here to do it with a drill bit with the proper attachment. Okay, so I went and got a Phillips bit that fits about just in the right spot, an extender that's generic, and doesn't have to be a fancy drill. Black & Decker's just fine. So hopefully this will have enough torque. I forgot to drill in the car last night, so the battery may have weakened a bit, but let's see what we got. Yep, did it. So the pitch of the threads is pretty coarse. It's going in plastic, so of course when you reset this later, you got to be careful. Don't destroy the plastic. Set it by hand and then whatever, you know. So you can see the torque it took there. I just kicked and just used my wrist a bit to nudge it. Okay, so we got 3. And voila. So in case you're curious to see what's going on in here, this here is one of the biggest pain in the butts. Again, when it comes to realigning everything and getting it just right when your cables are all out of wonk, it's really hard. Now, you see, here's my former experience telling me don't just change out those plastic clips that ride up and down. You see how there's a kink here? This is the aftermath of having the window bind and be kind of cockeyed and crooked, because it's realistically jamming places and then it's tugging in ways it's not supposed to. So this cable is actually compromised. You'd bust your time trying to change those plastic things, which I tried the first time, and then you got to coil these back around the correct way and thread it along the right track. So again, when it comes to doing this and doing it outside and wasting my time and trying to line it up just perfect, I voted no thanks on this one, and I'm gonna what you might want to do is what I'm doing right now, is basically doing a little bit of documentation of what a proper one looks like. So I haven't rigged around, I haven't had to try to bring it inside the car, because when you're going to try to shuffle it around and whatever, you're bound to have something screw up and miss. So you're probably going to want to take a quick gander of how the setup is, just in case these were to kind of fall off the track. And then if you wanted to salvage your other part and learn from this, and then buy these plastic clips off eBay or Amazon. They sell them, I think they're $9 or $10 Canadian. Shipping, I don't know, it depends, right? As everything. And then you could buy these clips, reassemble, re-loop them, and then rebox it and put it aside. If you've never changed your regulator, I guarantee you're going to have to do it at some point for your driver's side window. Now, again, just wanted to show this diagram here real quickly. My cause for failure for this car is this piece here that sits right on the edge where there's a rubber that's vertical, and it gets all binded up and crooked, and it wedges the window. So when it's trying to lift the window up, the window actually goes crooked just in a small way, and it does that enough times that these plastic pieces get wedged and binded as well, and they break as a fail-safe. So knowing that, you may wish to actually replace this part. I took a still picture earlier, and I'll provide the part numbers and everything in the description of the video, so if anybody wants to search it, order it, whatever. I ended up getting mine on eBay because price plus shipping was the cheapest. Amazon was like over $100, and it's just one piece, so it was kind of a little pricey to get it to me here. But in the US it might be worth it, because with Prime I think the part was like 45 bucks. And by the time it was converted to Canadian and all this stuff, I don't think it was a Prime part here in Canada, so I had to pay for shipping and it was too expensive. So I ended up getting the part elsewhere. This is an image that was provided to me by the dealer. They wanted to rip me off, so thank you very much for the information. Moving on with my life. Alright, so this next step here, and this is where kind of people have seen the display on their car windows saying roll up window, roll down window, this and that. A couple scenarios, unplugging the battery of the car, putting it back. People are like, why does that happen? In the previous section of the video I explained how these can act like switches, and they're also tensioners. You see how very tensioned they are right now? They're super snug. So as the window goes up and down, the car learns the position of the window, kind of like a servo motor. So it's telling you to bring it all the way down to detect the lowered position, and then bring it all the way back up. So when you have your express up and down, the car is already aware of where it's at to do exactly as you wish. So based on the orientation of this, one can notice that typically this portion is at the bottom of the door and this portion is at the top. And you're probably saying, how the heck did I just come to that conclusion? Well, the easy part here to note and to recognize it and then not waste time, again, it's all these things that you're wondering, like, how would I remember which way to assemble it when you open it and it's already broken. I'll turn the image over here. The glass inserts in here and this way. So it has to be perfectly in position with those 4 bolts in the frame of the car, and you're going to end up resting the window in here. And there's bolts, I believe they're 10 millimeters on the underside, that you're going to have to tension just right. You see how there's just a wee bit of play? This rubber tensions the window as well. It pinches it down, so it can't have play. If it has too much play, these things break and boom, you're back to square one for the sake of a little plastic part. But like I say, it maintains the integrity of your window. If you tried to shove it up, these motors are really strong. You would shove it up and crooked and it would probably shatter it. So it's a minor godsend. I know people swear at Chevy up and down, including me, but that's the real reason why. Okay, so let's flip this over. You do it very gently because you don't want to pop anything off. It feels more resilient than the other ones. Actually, you know what? Earlier I had shown the problematic gear set here. I'm going to try to put this in view because it's kind of like a really neat thing to see. I want you to see the spool. Hopefully the camera will zoom in on this in a second there. get an object for it to focus on. It probably doesn't recognize this sort of thing here. I think what I'll do is I'll stop the video and just take a still picture, and then I can insert that while I video edit. Okay, so I just wanted to take a look at the original motor, some of its features. A little hard to see here. This connector has 2 large pins at this side and 5 pins on the opposite side here. So the 5 pins is probably the communication bus, the loop back and everything to the body control module. And the 2 pins is for positive and negative for a window to go one way, and in the body control module we'll probably flip it the opposite way to drive it the other way, or there's maybe an electronic in here that just takes the battery voltage and does the flip. Quite possible, because there may be one of these pins is for direction. High is one way, low is the other way, whatever. So when we look at the sprocket, I'm looking to see if there's any kind of keyway or something that would indicate, kind of like when you assemble an engine, do you have to line up things in the right spot to have the right timings? There doesn't seem to be any of these features there. The key features is just the position of these bolts, which is good because there's more do-it-yourselfers who would try to do this than anything else. Try to fix it all and whatever. Now when you're looking at things over here like these springs, I guess I remembered wrong. There's no actual button or switch that's a limit switch. It probably could be like a current sensing element on the inside of the electronics. When it senses the current is high, it cuts you off. Same thing. So when it detects a jam, in a sense it's a good thing, because it's also another measure that would maybe prevent the window from smashing or getting your finger cut in the window if you're rolling the window up, you know. The olden days there was none of that, so a lot of people got hurt. Natural selection, I don't know, just a joke. Okay, so now what we got to do here is reposition our bolts, and by assessing the position of like the Y pattern on the bolt, it would go something to this effect here, if I'm not mistaken. And again, like if you have doubts, it's never a bad idea to take some photographs to establish where things go. If you don't have a good memory, if you're tired, you're stressed out, whatever, you're better off to try to remember in a way you know you're not going to mess it up for yourself. So again, if you're hunting and you're like, oh god, which way does this go? Obviously the gears go down this way, because got to go insert it that way. So to me it seems like it goes this way here. Just got to line everything up nicely. And in a moment we'll put the bolts in and we'll reassemble that. Okay, so earlier I mentioned when you're reassembling, you probably want to use a screwdriver, slow and steady. Don't crack the plastic on this, because then your motor's useless. I mean, it's pretty beefy, but why would you want to take that chance? Beyond me. And I believe the screws are on the underside, right? So it's a layer of a little bit more. Be careful what you're doing, and you want to pilot these kind of straight in and true, and then once they're kind of in and piloted, you can torque them down after the fact. You just want to hold their position and not get any, have this track skip. Position is everything with these, because if it's wrong, well, your window won't go up and down correctly. Let me get rid of this here. I was trying to just give the camera something to focus on for a second. Okay, so here we got a better view of the 3 screws. And again, like I was mentioning earlier, this metal piece here, or this plastic, feels like almost windshield wiper blade material. it rests here because of the heat that's generated from the motor, so it doesn't melt the jacket. So I'll just give her the old tight down. So I'm not torquing it like crazy. I'm just, as soon as it stops, I'm stopping for now, just so all three kind of seat to their correct position. Now there's a little bit resistance on these to begin with, and when they hit the stop, I kind of have stopped. So now I'm giving it more of the torque. Okay, and I have a slight amount of grease on my hands just from pointing and touching things, so as I'm going around, my hand's slipping on the screwdriver, and that should be adequate. Okay, so our motor is reassembled the way it should be, and let's talk about this in the orientation that the motor is actually set up in the vehicle itself. So we're going to do an arrow here, so I kind of remind myself to keep orienting things like it's window side up, like so. Okay, and just double check that that arrow is in the video. See if I can maybe make it a little more obvious or something. First thing I grabbed, highlighter, whatever, doesn't matter. It's just to make it pop a bit more on the screen. Alright, so our job when we get in the car is going to be the following. And we haven't talked about this, so this is just the setup for the kill. So people, when you get in the car, you're not going, oh God, where do I start? Of course, you have to take the panel off and everything, and then you'll notice, interestingly, okay, this is kind of a neat, I didn't realize that before, they shipped it with the two top bolts, which is great. This is going to save a little bit of time, but as you can notice, there's no bottom bolts. Who knows why? So you have to keep the bolts you have. I kept mine in the holes where the car is, and no, actually, correction, I screwed it into my former pieces. Sorry, brain fart there. Okay, so what's happening next is when you get it into the car, there's going to be kind of like an opening that you have to kind of go in a little bit, and you have to flex the cables a little bit like this and that. You gotta go at it really easy, guys, okay? Because if you do anything wrong, it'll skip and bind here, these will pop off, and then imagine having to re-establish all that. No thanks, okay? These things too will kind of present like a bit of an obstacle coming in and out, okay? And then people are gonna cringe when I do these, but this is how these things work. There's like retention clips on the inside. In a pinch, you could probably get these to pop out, and there's like little levers in here. Okay, this was part of the mystery I forgot about. I'm not sure if you can see that with the crappy lighting. I'm not a professional recorder here, so I don't have all the lighting gear. So these are the little ends that we saw earlier that they tie into this, and this is what tensions it up and tensions it down. So one's pull, one's raise, one's drop. And these metal pieces, when you buy them, they click in and they lock in, and then you kind of sit them and you go like that to snap them in position with that. So I'm not going to strain these too much, but if they're kind of flaky or you're trying to cheap out, you're going to have, and buy just these pieces, whatever, that's how you would look at this. These come out and you have to click them back in. I don't remember if I had to do that last time. It was in June 2015, 2018, pardon me. Right now we're December 2019, so it lasted only a year and a half, which is, the later portion of my ownership of this car. In March it'll be 5 years of ownership, so last third of the car, I don't know, hard to describe. Anyways, so again, back to this. So the job will be that you're going to take a 10mm socket, which I'm going to grab here. And again, the whole thing with it being cold outside, And it's winter. Sorry, I probably was talking with this thing outside of the range of the video. So this is a 10mm socket. Not sure if you can catch the resolution to read that. And it fits like this. So they shipped it to you in a loose position. And as I described earlier, the window goes behind all this and rests and sits here. So you got to get all this perfectly right in spot. And the two bottom bolts that get here. Readjust the camera again here just so you can see, make sure I'm not too close here. Back up the camera a little bit. Again, like I say, sorry, I'm not a professional video editor, so I'm just trying to present this in an easy way and documents it for people who are a little nervous to do this, because the dealer charges way too much to do this. It's ridiculous. Most people with a couple sockets, like I didn't use anything fancy. You know, what did I use? My wallet and a couple screwdrivers, that's it. And the same thing for the panel of your car. You may need a Torx bit. Yeah, that's the only thing that's required, which I believe it's T20. So most Chevrolet has a few odds and ends. So if you got a T20 kit for body panels and a few other things like under the engine, I think T25 or T30 if I'm not mistaken for the coil pack, and if you do your own spark plugs you have to remove the coil pack. Anyways, it's a good investment for the easy jobs. Dealers ask too much, like I say. Okay, so the window will come in. So when you're going to put this item in the car, the window must be held upright. Right now I have a 2x4 that's sitting right about here, and I have bolts, wood screws in the eyelet that holds the window in the up position. So part of the whole thing is you're going to have to figure out a way to keep the window up, not jiggle it too much, not have it come falling down on you. That's probably the hardest part of the job, but it is doable. Okay, so probably some of the more professional shops have a wedge or something to keep it up, but just take your time and you'll get it without having to have all these fancy stuff. So my game plan is to get this in while the window's up, rest these in the upper eyelets one at a time, just like Eric O from South Main Auto says, very gingerly adjust these, grab your bottom bolt, put it in. Don't have your bottom bolt in right now, there's no point, because you're going to end up having to wrestle with it and remove it. You don't want to have to do that. So you're going to put it in. These are going to be like hangers. They're going to keep them there. You're going to keep them in position. And when you have it roughly in position, put it here. Next, once it's in, this is at the ideal height. You're going to need to bring down the window and rest it in the jaws here all the way to the bottom of the guide. And when they stop, you're good. Now, the tightening sequence. There's going to be on the door a very specific spot where like metal's going to be on top of this. There's going to be an opening where we kind of wedge it and seat it up. You're going to try to tighten like these, and there's going to be body in the way. You won't be able to get there. You can actually see that. Same thing with this one. So what I'm saying is that there's going to be like a hole. Imagine like a porthole to adjust and tighten a screw. If the window is higher, you're going to hit metal. You won't be able to tighten. You won't see this actual thing here. Same thing on this side. There's going to be a small porthole. I believe it's the opening size. Oh my God, what would I describe it as? Maybe a little larger diameter than the center of this. It'll be a little bit bigger. It'll be just enough that you can go in here and inspect and tighten. Tighten with your hands first, and then you'll probably want like a ratchet setup, like a 1/4 inch socket ratchet, and or a 3/8 socket with an extension, depending on how your kit is lined up. Don't over torque it, don't forget. You'd rather it slide a little wee bit and see if the window binds or not while you're testing. And it's a little hard to test because you got to put the panel kind of, rigged up a little wee bit. And then from there on, it's going to be a little tweaking, a little adjusting, loosening, putting it back. with the panel kind of tied in, the door panel with the switches. You can try it up and down, and be like, okay, you're good. And then you'll want to seal up the door and you'll be good to go. Test it all out, start the car, and again, that would probably finish up the job. So the proper staging and preparing right now, we're done. We're just having to go set up outside and actually put it up. Okay, so I fumbled the camera and it stopped it dead in its tracks. Go figure. Hopefully we didn't lose video. So we're going to be removing these two bolts, and I'm going to add it to my pile of stuff here on my seat. There isn't that many components, so you don't have to panic too much. This is the boring part, you know, you fast forward this if you want. The clip comes off. The whole point of that is that it makes you able to pull the plastic forward to inspect. Okay, so again, I use cut tape. It's like heating and ventilation style tape. Okay, so you just want to go at it. You don't want to rip the original material. The tape doesn't matter. If you got more, who cares, right? Okay, so now I'm going to back feed the connector here. Might be a little bit out of. Okay, like that. And you got to kind of work with that, unless you want to remove the connector here. Yeah, I think I will. So this one is for the power mirrors. And this one I've gotten away with not having to take it out so many times, because it's only been like opening the door for an adjustment or something like that. Okay, so again, put the plastic retainer back in. Now the whole point of that is so you can expose the entire door, all this sort of stuff. So here's my weird. Okay, I think I'm low on bat here. So what's going on is right now you can probably see in here and over here there's like a 2x4, and it's kind of lined up here. I used the eyelets, and what the 2x4 does is it's resting right here just in the right spot, and this holds the window in the upward position so it doesn't collapse and fall back down on me. So the whole point of that 2x4 is the best trick ever. It's about, I don't know, maybe a little bit longer than 24 inches, like maybe 26 inches at the most. The maximum length is basically here to here of a 2x4 that you can kind of, you know, work up in there. So you want to work with that. So now my next step is to remove my Robertson. So square head, for those of you in the US who don't know what a Robertson is, it's probably the best bit out there. It doesn't strip, it doesn't do anything stupid like a Phillips does. Interesting history. I'm just trying to get my camera back on the socket here. And the next step is going to be to remove, like I say, that 2x4 and not have the window come crashing down. So in Facebook Cruze talk lately, I've seen a lot of people, I need a larger square, indicate that they were using all kinds of methods, from a wedge created from a piece of a clothespin that's out of wood, and wedged it like in the window here so it doesn't fall. I mean, it's pretty clever. But, you know, bump it with your elbow by window, and if you're in the middle of driving and it's cold out like it is here, it's not as cold as it could be. It's But mine is 3 or 4 Celsius right now, which is probably, I'm guessing, 28 Fahrenheit, just a guess. I'm in Canada, as you can probably imagine. Alright, so here's where it gets a little weird, because the 2x4 is all the way up. It doesn't give me space to remove things from the eyelet. So I have to really, really loosen the screw. I'll give you a shot of it once it's out. Just give myself lots of slack, front to back, left to right, all that stuff. But it works like a charm. There we go, it released. Now I gotta work on this one. And voila. Okay, so the maximum length I was telling you about earlier was basically because of this reason. To be able to convince it to go in and out and have access to it. Now this is the actual connector. I'm not sure if I'm in view here. I'm trying to hurry because it is cold. This is what connects to your power window motor, and there's all kinds of weird effects if this is not connected, believe it or not. You unlock, relock your doors. The lights don't light up to tell you. Your interior lights won't turn off unless you defeat it and you tell it completely turn off. I've noticed my USB stick that's in the car in the console doesn't play music. So it's a routine, I'm sure, that kind of messes with the body control module. And it probably gets stuck in a software loop or something, seeing that it can't find the motor or it's not responding to its presence. It just wigs out. Anyways, all right. So again, this is the piece. This is a keeper, folks. I found that in the garage. I had saved it from my last adventure in June 2018. So about a year and a half. So it's not a long life for these. My battery was low, so I know I've got to double check here what's going on. Alright, so next is the body. The actual, sorry, I'm losing my words here. This dude, it's too cold to think. Alright, so again, right now the window is held up by thin air. There's nothing holding on to this, so you gotta be really careful. And again, these bolts are gonna go in these eyelets. So you gotta really carefully start feeding this stuff in there. Don't bump and jar the window, because everything's gonna have to restart. Just work it in nice and easy. Kind of using a rotating motion. Don't disconnect those little white things here, because you're gonna have one heck of a nightmare, my friend. So you're gonna get it inwards behind these cables. Slowly rotate. Very easy. Don't hit the window. So you got to stay up. Like if this was the window, you got to come on this side of the window. But between the metal, it's going to be this thing, and then the window on the opposite side. So you see how it nicely sits here? That's the objective. There. And then now, what you got to watch out for is the placement of your harnesses. Okay, so you can plug your harness here right away. Again, there's a plastic retaining clip right there. Just click it in and it'll hold on to these. Just hold the bolt while you convince her to stay in there. It takes a little pressure. Don't give up on it. And you lock the pin. There. That was a nice loud lock. Now, like an idiot, I left my other bolts inside the house. I didn't follow my own advice. Can you believe that? So I gotta pause the video and go get this. Okay, I'm back. Now, not sure what the lighting will be like. So the bolts I went and got have a lock washer. So the lock washer is described with a slot and it's slightly off an angle. So when you torque it, it locks it in place. Why am I bothering saying all this? A lot of people who do this never tried doing too many things that are mechanical, so I'm just kind of, I don't know, maybe teach a young person skills, who knows. Maybe I'm babbling for nothing. Anyhow, it prevents it from undoing. And when you're using the motor to bring a window up and down, there's moving parts. So having something that locks helps provide stability and keep it in place. And it doesn't want to kind of loosen over time, and it would rattle. And very intuitive. Okay, so these are also 10 millimeter, I should say properly. I believe I put it back away. Let's right the place, and I did. So again, I'm just careful not to lose the lock washers, because it is a critical component, truth be told. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit of pain in the butt, because when you put pressure, it wants to kind of go deeper into the socket. So we might have to just set it with our finger. And again, this eyelet has movement to allow for your alignment of your bolt. See? Cold fingers, pain in the butt. Try to keep it dry as well so it doesn't rust. I just dropped it in the snow, of course, my luck. Do your best. It is winter, I know. And that's the problem with these. I find they often fail when it's, you know, the worst time ever, the winter, when you're freezing your nuts off. If it's ladies watching, well, I don't know what you call it. I don't have those conversations with women. Okay, so the bolt's set, so I'm going to do the rest of the work after the fact with my socket. And the other one here is a little bit, you can see I pulled it back, right? You can tell the plastic. It's only as far as it needed to go. Ah, here I go again. Uh-oh. This time. Where's the washer go? Right here. Oh, thank God. Again, the key with this is take your time. I'm sorry if I'm blocking the view. There's only so many ways to place the camera when you don't have the fancy gear. And okay, you can see this, it's starting to bite a little bit. Okay, use your hand tool. Don't want to over torque the sucker just to say that it's stopping its position. Okay. So as you can see, I'm just doing it. My hand's slipping. It's good enough for now. You can tighten it more later. And why am I doing it only that tight? Because these need adjustment as well. Right? You want it to stop. See how this one's kind of. Play with that one because it's not where it needs to be, obviously. And this one was set by the factory, so God only knows if they over torqued that or if I even set the washer or something. Oh, they had thread locker on that sucker. Ah, goodness me. Okay, so in a situation like that, you need a little bit more muscle. My hands are kind of sore from the cold, so I'm just using a gender bender, so to speak. 3/8, 1/4 inch to 10 mil. I'm going to use the extra torque you can get from a ratchet to kind of make it go in. It's the thread locker component on here, like this stuff they brush on. So again, you can't feel if you're over tightening this, so you got to use your eye to watch it. And part of it will be that it'll lose that play. Getting closer, getting closer. Okay. To not over tighten it, trick is you keep your hand over here. It's closer to the kind of torque you would get with a screwdriver. To go here, you get leverage. This one's kind of loose. I'm gonna get it to that point where it's like this one here. Resting in its general position where it needs to be. See, like right now it loosened up because it's not covered in thread locker stuff anymore. Okay, just a touch tighter on all four now that they're in position. The lock washer is barely starting to straighten out, like it's just to say. Okay, I'm going to get you a little closer. Okay, back to recording. So let's have a look at the tracks. This is the exact position where we left things from the factory. And again, the window is in the upright position. But you see like this hole, and this hole here as well, I was telling you about like the roll of tape. This is going to be your adjustment point when the window actually comes down and goes up for adjustment. This is where the screwdriver is going to go to actually tighten it and get those clamps to close on each side. Like these will close up, right? These metal pieces here. And that's going to tighten her up. And the rubber prevents it from having the glass slip in and out. So again, sorry for this shaky video. I feel like a broken record saying that all the time, but I'm not a professional YouTube producer, so I don't have the budget to start doing this. I'm trying to help out guys that are like me, or young people who want to learn a thing or two, and the Cruze is a affordable car to start with. All right, so next, because I can't hold it and do everything, is I'm going to bring this window down. It's just gravity and like a little bit of tension holding the glass right now, so I need both my hands. I'm going to coax it down very gently down the track, and I'm going to bring it so it slides into the position here and into the position of that clamp down there. It's a little dark, probably can't see it now. Some of these edges are sharp. It's better than other cars that I've seen. They've kind of grinded her and painted her, which makes it a little less sharp, but just watch out for that for your own safety, because they can cut, especially when your skin's dry. Now, this is the part of the movie here. I want to show people why my window failed. Okay, you see this rubber here? It got all bent out of shape, and it kind of binded, it curled up. And when the window went up, you can see all the different points that it's jammed over time. And it made the window kind of rotate in a weird way. And then those white plastic clips broke because something had to give. And even down here, you can see how it's curled. That's not proper. I actually notched that on my original repair, and it's failing worse. So I ended up buying this piece, which is a whole plastic thing, and it integrates with the rubber. So my prediction is I'm gonna have to take this plastic part off, which I've never had to do before. And there's like a little, so that may have to be a separate video because I don't have that just yet. So for the time being, I'm going to finish the window regulator, which is what the word was I was looking for earlier, and go from there. Okay, so I'm about to start bringing the window down. So I'm bringing it down, one hand on the opposite side of the window. It's really in there. Okay, so I just, to exaggerate my motion, I went like this a bit. You see how it's floppy? I'm just sitting on top of those clamps. I gotta kind of, just so it threads the needle, so to speak, to be in the right position. So in the front, it landed in the back. It is now also. Now, because of this rubber, as I described, is still broken, when I raise the glass, I have to do it very carefully to not damage the whole apparatus here. And because I can't tighten these right now, I'm in a bad spot. So what I got to do is slightly tighten the back clamp, get me closer to what I need, just 10 millimeter. Now, it's on the 3/8 drive. It might be a touch too thick. Actually, it's okay. So, glide nice and slow. Don't overdo her. Again, just don't use the leverage to your advantage. You just want it to be snug. You stop rotation for the time being. The rubber is going to give a little wee bit in regards to traction. So I'm feeling a little bit of resistance. I'm going to back off. You don't want to snap the glass either, right? Okay, so here, a little tougher. I can maybe get it started. I'm going to try my luck with the 1/4" ratchet. Because that one doesn't mess around with the depth. It gives me a little more space. The other one was about that deep. Now it's a little shorter profile. Get ready for torquing. Right hand. And got one turn on there, but it's a little awkward. Kind of doing it blind. So every now and then you got to peek. And you can see again, this is engineered for a spot for your hand, right? And the final torque position is going to be here, as I mentioned earlier, when the window is up. The other, right there. Okay. Kind of lost my spot, so I'm going to move the clicker up a few. So I tried to move the glass a wee bit with my bare hands and I can't. The traction's got a grip on it, which is good. It's kind of what we want. Hopefully it's not excessive. The next step is to temporarily connect the connectors. Use our key in the ignition to raise the window ever so slightly, where the bolts will line up here ideally, and you can tighten it. Okay? So, oops. This is where you may lose some junk in your stuff here. I'm too stubborn, so I'm probably going to pay the price for it. Temporarily set these connectors in. The window one is this one. This one is your mirror, and this one is your lock. But I don't think the BCM likes these not being present when you're trying to raise the window, so you don't want to do that. I tried to remove just this part on my past adventures. It's a lot of work. Don't. It's really not worth it. Like odds are you're going to crack the plastic. Not necessary. You'll see. Okay. Start with the forward one because you have the least amount of space. You can actually remove the little plastic tabs if you think it's going to be a pain in your, you know what. And the middle one's the tougher one. I believe the plastic tab, the blue plastic tab, goes in the forward position, like pointing towards the hood. So if you're like, which way does it go? That's the way. Okay, so now, as you can see, it's just dangling by its own weight. Careful. And this is where I'm saying you might dump all the stuff. Next, car key. It's lost its cool effect, but whatever. Just in the run position. Driver's side, don't click it all the way up if you have the express. You want to just bit by bit so you can inspect it, okay? So I'm holding the door with my foot at the bottom here. Turn off the radio. The bing bong, I can't help it, sorry. Ever so slightly. Checking out. So far so good. Okay. This is the interesting part. Going up is the easy part. It's going down after the fact that's going to be a bit of a pain in the you know what. I'll try to line up the hole with the camera here. I know it sounds inappropriate, but whatever. Okay. This is our adjuster hole. Remember I was talking about? So you're going to put a long in there. And same thing here. The door panel's kind of in the way. So I'm going to have to do the old twisteroo while I'm working. And there you have it. Okay. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to take the key out because it's going to drive me nuts. Don't lock your keys in the car, whatever you do. Keep it in your pocket. And other times I roll my windows down when I do work in my car. This way, if I ever do lock keys in the car by mistake, you bump the controls. You got a backup plan to get in there, Mr. or Mrs.? Alright, let's check the point of view on this one here. It's about as good as I can get it with the contrast of the light. Let's try zoom maybe. Oh, that might work. There we go. Focus on the top bolt. So next step, I'm going to use this screwdriver here for the advantage of its length. 9mm or 10mm, pardon. And then exert a little bit more of maximum hand torque. My face looks worse than what I'm actually torquing. Next is this one. This one's a little harder because my hand's rubbing on the door, so again it'll take a little bit of ingenuity to get that correct. Just rechecking here in case it had a microscopic change here. Oh, that's the other side effect of keys in your pocket. You hit them. This quote's notorious. Different pocket. Okay, so now the window is all the way up. I'm going to take a quick spin around the car with the camera so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, my battery's about to die, guys. So I just wanted to show you real quick condition of the rubber here. Okay, so this is kind of what's going on. See these little tears and whatever? That's what creates the problems where the window kind of gets all messed up. Watch out for that. Okay, so now the last step in this is you probably want to retest it going in the downward position. See, even my other windows